pet rag generals across mined fields, booby-trapped ditches, to discover books, desks, a place for us. How they knew what we must know without knowing a page of it themselves.
The courage that my mother had went with her, and is with her still. Rock, New England quarry, now granite in the granite hills. Golden brooch my mother wore, she left behind for me to wear. There is no thing I treasure more, but it is something I could spare. Or if instead she left to me that thing she took into the grave, that courage like a rock, that she has no more need of, and I have.
Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor bare. But all this time, I've been climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners and going in the dark where there ain't been no lights aboard. Don't you turn back now. Don't you sit down on those stairs because you find it kind of hard. Don't you fall now. Because I'm still going on. I still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
I painted a picture, green sky. I showed it to my mother and she said,
"That's nice, I guess."
So I painted another, this time pulling the paintbrush with my teeth. "Look, Ma, no hands." And she said,
"I guess someone would admire that if they knew how you did it and were interested in painting, which I am not."
I played clarinet solo in Gounod's clarinet concerto with the Buffalo Philharmonic. Mother came to listen and said,
"That's nice, I guess."
So I played it again. This time, lying on my back, using my toes. "Look, Ma, no hands." And she said,
"I guess someone would admire that if they knew how you did it and were interested in music, which I am not."
I made an almond souffle and served it to Mother. She said,
"That's nice, I guess."
So I made another, this time beating it with my breath, served it with my elbows. "Look, Ma, no hands." And she said,
"I guess someone would admire that if they knew how you did it and were interested in eating, which I am not."
So I sterilized my wrist, performed the amputation, threw away my hands. But before I could say, "Look, Ma, no hands," she said,
"I have a present for you."
And insisted I try on the new pair of blue kid gloves to see if they were the right size.
We did Women by Alice Walker.
And then I did The Courage That My Mother Had, written by Edna St. Vincent Millay.
I did Mother to Son by Langston Hughes.
And then we did Accomplishments, written by Cynthia McDonald. And that last poem was one that we would do for middle school. And after the show, whenever we had time, we would take questions or have discussions with the students. So they might send up one class, we'd sit on the floor of the stage, and we could discuss the poem. And that's the one they had the most to say about. They knew just what that poem was about. Even though a lot of you don't wonder sometimes, what was that about? So we learned a lot from the middle school students.
Well, we still have 15 minutes left.
You know, we see some faces in here of people who come to Tuesday for Poetry, but we think that they might be here representing other groups because we know they belong to other groups as well. So we have Mark here, Mark Orr.
Yeah.
You got enough poems to put about 10 minutes?
Sure.
Hey. Give it up for Mark. By the way, Mark is going to be, on July 1st, will be the new Poet Laureate of North Andover.
Very exciting. And these guys have been great in developing poetry in North Andover and running Tuesdays for Poetry and continuing to run Tuesdays for Poetry. So.
We missed 1 week in the last 3 years.
Oh, yeah, 1 month, right. So I guess I have kind of start with two topical poems, and one is a Mother's Day poem that I read at the Poet Laureate Committee meeting, and this is kind of a weird one in a sense where I had this memory in the back of my head for many, many years, but I never really thought about it until so much time had gone past, until almost 50 years had gone past from the time of this memory. So it was a strange thing, and it came to me a couple years ago in a big way, and I don't know why, but it did. It like came back to me in force. And it's one of those things where I remember remembering the memory. So like I have memories of the memory going back through time of just this little thing. And then somehow, when I've been writing poetry, I wrote a poem about it. So here we go. And this is for Mother's Day. A door opens. The bright day spills around the shades drawn between the morning and the early afternoon. In the darkened room, the boy sits up on the bed, nap time, tucked in, awake, waiting. The door opens. A smiling face appears. See you later, alligator. The face disappears. The door closes. A laugh is shared. The game at the door is played between mother and son. After a while, crocodile. Each open and close of the door brings another laugh to share. A smiling watch and eager wait for more. This is the playful game of a mom and her 5-year-old and how not to get a boy to take a nap. There was love in your eyes and you were looking at me. I gazed back with the same playful joy, knowing how much you cared about me and how much I cared about you. The door opens and closes. Laughter and smiles are shared. Playful joy and love fill the scene. A look of joy across the room between mother and son becomes a look across the years. A gift you laid up for me now appears 50 years on. A gift you laid up for me is given today. See you later, alligator. There was love in your eyes, and you were looking at me. You were looking at me with your gift across the years. After a while, crocodile. When I was 5 and you were 35, with me at the start and you in the middle, between the morning and the early afternoon, with the bright day spilling around the shades, a door opens between a mom and her boy. So much love. So much love yet to come. Get me when I read that. I didn't expect that.
Surprise.
This one's also kind of a topical poem. This is one that I wrote in... My daughter went to Bradstreet Early Childhood Development Center in North Andover. And at that time it was just kindergarten, and they had preschool there. And then this is a building, if you know North Andover, that was built in the early 1900s. And then after my daughter went there, years went by, it was no longer in use as a school. It was just sitting there in town. And then eventually the town decided they were going to tear it down. They didn't have use for it, and they were going to redevelop the area. And so it was just sad that this empty schoolhouse, this beautiful brick schoolhouse, was sitting there for many years. And so one winter Sunday afternoon, I sat there in my car and wrote this poem. And the reason this is topical is because as years have gone by, the town built a new kindergarten and early childhood center. And I'll give you a little story after I read the poem about that. So we've got a little follow-up. Bradstreet School still stands. The old brick facade gazes silently down, watching the quiet yard of school days past. Empty halls echo. Life and lessons are done. Windows stand dark. The welcome door is held fast. For these brick walls, the bell has rung. Here, lively feet and playful voices once gathered. Days began with a class on the swings and bars. So keen to learn, a jest, not all so eager, for the schoolmistress bell to sound the start. Take your seat, hands folded, sit straight for teacher. Pens out, books open, the lessons begun. Perhaps the hand of an earlier mistress guided their pens, though her hand held a quill. She walked the same land, a poet's page was her canvas. She reared her own, with goodly words instilled. In the verse that she wrote to her child not yet born, was it meant for those who gathered here each morn? Perhaps you saw far to your red brick namesake. Would you nod your assent to what your words began, to lessons learned under your good gentle name? Surely taught, as by your own careful hand, the pupils and teachers you trained, your descendants became. The purpose that guided the build of this frame has carried on to other rooms, other doors. This mistress is left, behind her fence, her gate. Decision made, by town citizens okayed, this red brick lady will stand no more. Only some stores, in town homes and a plaque, leaving the mind's eye and a gift in the heart of those with town colors of scarlet and black, of those in her care who studied and taught, of those with the spirit of sturdy red brick. The good gentle spirit of our mistress poet, with her own at her knee as she taught and penned, has carried on to those who were not yet born, has carried on to those who guide with sure hand, has carried on to those who teach all as their own. When this brick lady is gone, some will yet understand. Bradstreet School is still here. Bradstreet School still stands. The funny thing about this poem is that, okay, so this school, Bradstreet School, that was in North Andover, and I assumed, as a poet and someone who knows North Andover history, that it was named after Anne Bradstreet. Everyone would assume that. Well, it was not. It was named after her husband, Simon Bradstreet, who was the governor of the colony of Massachusetts, obviously a much more important fellow than Anne. But the beauty of poetry and all literature is that as time goes by, good stuff stays around and becomes, over time, the thing that people say, yeah, that was the most important thing about our town. Anne Bradstreet lived there, not her husband. Well, he's a pretty good guy too, but we don't really think of him as much as we think of her. So it's really wonderful that now, and the end of the story, is that now there is a new Anne Bradstreet Early Childhood Development Center in North Andover that was, they just broke ground on it recently. And so it's like this whole circle that's come around. So, there you go.
Okay, well, thank you.
We are going to perform the most difficult vocal piece that we know. You ready? Are you ready?
Where whirligig beetles were swimming in circles like back by the hundred.
Like back by the hundred, with spinning and swerving, as if we were on a mad merry-go-round.
We never get dizzy.
We never get dizzy from whirling and weaving and wheeling and swirling. The same goes for turning, revolving and curving, gyrating and twirling.
Gyrating and twirling. The crow flies directly
for spirals, our ovals and loops. We're fond of the phrase. As the whirligig swims, meaning traveling by the most. Circular, roundabout, backtracking,
indirect, serpentine, tortuous, and twisty, best possible route. Nothing. We're going to do it the real way a poem like this is supposed to be done.
Like we had just come out of Starbucks.
After having way too much Starbucks. Where whirligig beetles were swimming in circles like back by the hundred.
With spinning and
swerving, merry-go-round. We never get dizzy from whirling and weaving and
wheeling and twirling. The same goes for turning,
revolving and curving, gyrating and twirling. The crow flies directly for
our bubbles and loops were fond as a phrase. That's the whirligig swims, meaning traveling by the most circular,
roundabout, backtracking, indirect, serpentine, tortuous, twisty, best possible route. Our friend Joffrey just showed up, and he He also is a member of Tuesday4Po Poetry, and what we'd like to do as soon as he gets ready is have him come up and do a poem. He just made it. We've got a few minutes left, okay? So come on up, Geoffrey, if you're ready.
Thank you for coming with us.
Thank you.
So good to hear you. I work
Hello.
Good.
Just give me 1 second. All right, this one is called God's Artwork. God's Artwork, the most spectacular artwork ever made in history. What do we do with it? Just dismiss it like old newspaper. Wonder what God think about it. Do they really care what we think or do? They shrug it off, wondering what they think about us destroying our planet. Could be very interesting to see what they think of it.
Mhm.